Mr. Chairman, as you know, I've been a member of this committee since its inception after we created it in the Congress after the 9/11 incident. I'm very troubled today by several things that this committee is doing. I think it's great that we are having a hearing on this issue, but I do have a problem with the fact that at 11, which of course we've now gone through this, and I'm assuming we're probably going to continue and do the markup on H.R. 2899, that we would have a hearing, the only hearing on it really, to go right into a markup. From a procedural standpoint, I think that's, as has been noted by other members, makes it very difficult for members to really get a good feel for where we should be. I'm going to have several points you might want to answer.
Well, that is incorrect. We had a full committee hearing in February on this issue, countering violent extremism. It's come up at multiple hearings. I yield back.
I'm told that it was as threats, as I recall.
From the hearing notice itself, countering violent extremism.
But the witnesses were about threats. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, please. Well, we have a difference of opinion. Secondly, you said earlier when I asked you about where the department was with respect to supporting 2899, you said, and I asked you specifically, are they for that bill? Are they supportive of that bill? Or are they just supportive about obviously trying to get to this terrorism, whether it's international or domestic? And with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, you said it was with respect to the bill. I'm looking at the letter that was sent to you by Secretary Johnson, where nowhere in that does he mention in any way H.R. 2899. Thirdly, I'm always concerned when we're thinking about making new bureaucracy, especially in a department where we have some of the lowest morale, where we have had issues with respect to headquarters and where everybody is in different places, with the whole array of having put 22 agencies into one department at the start and now creating more agencies and more pieces of the bureaucracy. I didn't vote for the Homeland Security Creation Department bill. But here we go, adding on to the whole problem. And by the way, in the letter from the Secretary, he mentions that research on this is done in the Science and Technology Directorate. Engagement is done by the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties and the Office of Infrastructure and Protection within the National Protection and Programs Directorate. Threat analysis is done by the Office of Intelligence and Analysis, training for federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial law enforcement by the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, grant support by the Federal Interagency Management Agency, and I mean, he lists all the different types of pieces within the existing framework that are actually working on this. And lastly, let me tell you that I have a problem with a bill like 2899 when it goes out after a particular group. And the reason I say this is, remember that I come from the district where the FBI put in undercover agents to go into our mosques and infiltrate our Muslim youth in my district and initiate and try to entrap, in a sense, these youth to do terrorism or to radicalize. And guess what? We caught it. We caught it. And the interesting thing was that my imams, my people heading those mosques, when they found out that this was going on with their youth, actually turned in the perpetrators of doing this to the FBI, unknowingly turning in the people the FBI had put in those mosques. So I do have a problem when we are singling out just one group.
The gentlelady pointed out in the bill where it singles out a single group.
You know, we can
because that doesn't exist. It says all forms of extremism. It does not point out a specific group.
You know, Mr. Chairman, if we're going to be
If you're going to make an allegation, be
if we're going
correct
to
in your
mark up the
allegation.
bill, I'll have a lot to say during the markup.
Point out in the bill where
about,
it says that.
when we get to that bill.
You know,
when we
these
get
attacks, I have to respond. If you're going to be
Mr.
correct
Chairman,
in your allegation.
when we're on the mark, when we're at the mark, I will definitely talk about where and how that happens, because I'll have several discussions on that. Anyway, and I yield back. I just wanted to voice my concerns with respect to not having a process, I think, that is, and with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, because you and I have worked on many things before, I just find it rushed from my perspective. Thank you, and I yield back.